Welcome to This Is Live, the Sunday talk show here on the RS News channel. With me now, I have Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, and also Jide Ologun, a legal practitioner and national development advocate. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me again on This Is Live, the Sunday talk show. Well, we have had three guests, addressing a number of issues. Mr. Dankunle, covering the entire spectrum of energy issues, topics during the week that just passed: electricity, oil, gas. And then we had, the spokesman to the president, Tunde Rahman, talking about cabinet reshuffle. And then, we had our third guest also looking at, issues internationally. And that's Professor Adele Jinadu, talking about international relations, the Commonwealth, and Nigeria's foreign policy process, the BRICS, and how Nigeria is now, one of the parties joining the BRICS. And he tried to dissect all of those implications. So quickly, I would like you to run through these topics. I would like to start with Professor Aworawo, who is sitting just next to me, to my right hand. Prof?
I want to go in the reverse order.
Okay.
To begin with the submissions of Professor Adele Jinadu. He lamented, of course, he is an advocate of reparation, and then he lamented, Nigeria's current position, where what Nigeria is expected to do, how Nigeria is expected to hold itself globally. Nigeria is not doing that. But let me first comment on the reparation, which almost became contentious at the just concluded Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, Shogom. Yes, the subject has been on the agenda, on the table for a long time now. The Jews, Israel has got a huge reparation for what Germany did to the Jews in the 1930s. As a last count, Israel will have got up to 80 billion euro from the reparation, which is huge. If Israel alone got 80 billion for what Hitler did to the Jews in the 1930s, if we had to calculate for the slave trade, it would go into hundreds of billions of euros. But that one is more complicated. Questions such as, how do you share the money? How do you know how many slaves were taken from particular regions to know what to give and all that? But in principle, something can be worked out. Some other people have advocated some package by the West that may not be monetary, that would enable the African countries, the Caribbean countries to be able to develop faster. We had the new international economic order a couple of decades ago, but it didn't really transform these countries much. So that is it about the reparation. Then about Nigeria's foreign policy, I don't know, those who wrote the 1999 Constitution, I'm not sure they did enough consultation. Yes, Professor Adele Jinadu is right in saying that in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, Nigeria's foreign policy objectives are outlined. 5 issues are mentioned. There are several other issues that are omitted. For instance, multilateralism. Nigeria's commitment to multilateral institutions to advance its interest in the global system is omitted. Non-alignment is also omitted and all that. But of course, despite the fact that they don't feature there, Nigeria continues to, reflect all of this in its foreign policy activities. There are 2 key things that are critical to a country's being able to advance its cause and hold its own in the global system. The personality is important. We call it the idiosyncratic variable. That is the person in charge, how much is able to push his way is important. That is why the 2 times Obasanjo was head of state at one point and president at the other time, you saw Nigeria, vibrant in the global system because of his, personality. The second is the economy. If your economy is not doing well, you cannot do so much in the global system. In fact, my friends who are in the embassies abroad, when we speak, they say, we are in trouble. There's no money. Even small meetings that you need small money to attend, sometimes they skip because there is no money. Is it a country that doesn't have money to run simple, small things, that is going to be holding its own in the global system? There's going to be a voice. I did a work on Nigeria and the United Nations under the Buhari government. And this issue came up of Nigeria's dwindling position in the global system. And, from the interviews conducted, it was clear that smaller African countries who are now vocal, they say, well, we are vocal now because Nigeria has been silent. That ran through, the material I got to write that work. So the economy has to be better than it is now. And then, of course, you have to have personalities that are able to push their way through, use their contacts, and then hold their own in the global system before Nigeria's voice can be as loud as it once was in the 1970s, and of course, from 1999 to 2007. As for the energy issue, energy crisis, yes, it's there. In fact, I will link the energy now to the cabinet reshuffle. The national grid has collapsed about 8-9 times this year. Significantly, the 3 or 4 of the 8 or 9 happened in the past 2-3 weeks, which was why some people were thinking that the minister who should have just been shown the way out, he seemed not to understand, he seemed not to have a grip on, how to manage that, the energy. But it's not removed, so we hope he wakes up. It's an embarrassment for the national grid to be collapsing as frequently as that of Nigeria has been collapsing. It is difficult to find any other country where national grid collapses. The other week it collapsed twice in the 1 week. And then, of course, yesterday as well. The minister, since he's still keeping his job, he needs to know that generally people are not satisfied with his performance. In fact, friends in the north said that in the past 8 days, they haven't had life for 3/4 of northern Nigeria. And they are wondering whether they are still part of the country. So the minister needs to wake up as far as that is concerned, so that this embarrassing national grid collapse and the attendant economic consequences, which are negative, will not be there. Then finally, cabinet reshuffle, yes. Nigerians thought that the cabinet reshuffle would be more extensive than what we saw. But of course, it's a good start. Many of the people removed, people expected them to be removed. Of course, people expected more to be changed. We're not just changing, the group you change them with is also important. We've said over and over again that this government needs more technocrats. People who are committed, people like Adeshina, people like Soludo when they were brought, people like Kokoje Wala. They need to identify them.
People like Ruben Abati.
Why
are you ignoring me?
I don't want it to be as if I'm, you understand. Even people like me, but of course it will be disingenuous for me to begin to say, President Obasanjo, President Tinubu, I'm here, But speaking seriously, yes, this reshuffle, the reshuffling that took place is fine. But the individuals those who have been, shown the way out are replaced with is also important. And of course, we expect the reshuffling to be even more extensive. Maybe we'll have more moving forward. The young people have been rejoicing over the removal of the Minister of Education. They came, I saw some of them on campus over since Wednesday. They have been drinking malt and coke that the person who wanted to spoil our lives, God has taken him away. And you see that, and we said this on this platform, that how can a minister in a country that has over 20 million out-of-school children, his focus is age, 18 years that he was insisting on. You see, a young man came to my office the other day, he's 15 years, he will be 16 in February. If he did well in JAB, he scored 328. But he knows he won't get admission because he's not 16 yet. But he's not bothered. He knows he will do the thing again and forthcoming. But if the minister had his way, if he had remained and had his way, this boy who will wait 1 year now will have waited 3 years. I mean, how can a minister ever contemplate doing anything like that? So they've been rejoicing that the man is gone. And we hope that the one who has just come in, or who is just coming in, will have learned his lessons and focus on the challenges facing the education sector. Just take, for instance, when in July, they put all the universities on Band A, and there was this crisis. You expect the Minister of Education, that's the constituency, to get in touch with the Minister of Power. At the ministerial level, they speak and find solution. But we never heard from him. All that happened because the Vice Chancellor were now struggling to see how they could, go through. So
many of these universities don't pay electricity tax.
No, they pay. Unilag pays pays 160 million a month.
They think
before
it's
that
their entitlement.
No. Now Unilag pays about 400 million a month, not a year.
They should pay more.
They should pay more. Where would the money come from? It's our children that will be taxed, and you and I.
From the allocation.
Which allocation?
Let them pay.
In fact, the allocation that government gives a year is not enough to pay power in 1 month.
Okay, let's hear from...
Anyway, so we expect the president to do more. Let's bring in people who can work. So that beyond politics, performance will be another thing that, Nigerians want to see.
Let's hear from Mr. Ologun. So, let Unilag think they can collect electricity free of charge. It's not...
There is nothing like free of charge. We pay more than many big industries pay. 400 million a month is not money, as they say in our, in our palace.
And we want responsibility, accountability. That's my point.
Thank you.
You people consume electricity, you pay. Otherwise, you can leave Band A and go to
we
Band...
We should not be overtaxed.
Band whatever.
That is what the point of
Okay, Mr. Ologun.
So let me start from the reshuffling of the cabinet. Let me establish what we have in Section 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended that puts the executive power on the president, who can exercise it directly or through the vice president, the ministers, and the civil service structure. So it is his primary responsibility to put who should perform where. And having said that, there's a need to set a goal. And thank God the Renewed Hope agenda is there. And Peter Drucker mentioned in his 1954 book, The Practice of Management, that you do management by objective, by which you set smart goals. By now, I think we should be going out of this electricity crisis that we have in the country if we have engaged that. So, and I want to say, linking that with how to manage our infrastructure in the country, that there's a Chinese maxim that says you cannot carve a rotten wood. We are talking of national grid. If you like, change 17 ministers, bring 7 of them together. Except we invest in the infrastructure, except we decentralize. You can imagine, national grid, and the moment it shuts down, it affects the whole nation. Except we look at the practicability, we are going nowhere. And I did a study, and I didn't go to America or anywhere. Africa. Mauritius relies on coal and oil, basically. And they've been able to give the citizens almost 100% access to electricity. You talk about Morocco, 100% to both rural and urban, because they have prioritized knowing the importance of electricity in driving economic power. Exactly. In the nation, you talk of Tunisia, 100%. You talk of Egypt and some other countries like that. So, and the same Nigeria, where this national grid collapses at will, supplies electricity to some neighboring countries that are even owing us. So my opinion is that we are not serious with the resources God has given us. And I link that with the discussion on the LPG and compressed natural gas. If we are not producing, we are going nowhere. And the pressure on dollar, on naira put by dollar, is not going to ease out. And why are we not productive? I love to read, we now have 37 billion, we can double that. Go ahead and double. Don't tell us about your intention. Deliver on these things. We have the natural resources. And like Mr. Dan brilliantly mentioned, under the tenure of your master, doctor, the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, when Dangote was expanding his coast of business in Obajana, we were taken there. When under the same canopy with the president, Dr. Makoju gave a lecture then, of blessed memory now, that the raw materials for producing cement in Kogi State could not be exhausted in 70 years, 70. That it is cheaper to construct roads with concrete, and that thirdly, it's cheaper to maintain roads that are constructed with concrete. What are we doing with all this? Now we are talking about the Anambra Basin, discovering oil in that region. The ones we have discovered, what have we done with that? And that takes us to the global environment, and whether you are talking of the Commonwealth or BRICS that is giving us the space to partner. What is BRICS all about? You talk about Brazil and China and all these, the South Africa. They are to collaborate and drive economic and national development. Now that we are partners, are we moving in that direction? Or is it the practice of going out there to beg for debt forgiveness and things like that? And that is why the issue of reparation may lie low. I love what Professor Aworawo mentioned about Israel. Israel is resolute. They went for that. A wise man said, you don't get what you deserve in business, you get what to negotiate. But Africa is yet to come out. You know, on that my study on electricity, the African Development Bank came out with statistics that about 640 million Africans do not have access to electricity. And yet, this Africa has about 40% of the total resources of the world. So how have we positioned ourselves in the global environment? And you can see the Commonwealth, those who enslaved almost the whole part of the world, now insisting that there may not be reparation. And you recall when the Queen passed on, Professor Uju passed some comments that some people were not comfortable with. And we need to go back and look at the role of the colonial master. There's what you call blackbirding. And blackbirding was like the practice of even going to pretentiously kidnap people to go and work as slaves in some parts of the world. So if we must enjoy equity as part of this global system, we must be appropriately positioned. And that's why it's instructive that we come back home, look at what we have, look at how we can develop that economic muscle, like China has done, to be relevant in the global scheme of events. And I think we need to put all this together. So back to the reshuffling of the cabinet. Mr. President, my president and commander-in-chief, whom I love so much, you see, while reshuffling, what are they going to work with? What timeline are you setting for them? There were promises, I think we've had about 2 or 3 now, that the refinery in Port Harcourt will come back to life. Do we have that? Who is accountable for it? We discovered oil in commercial quantity in 1956 in Nigeria. The first refinery was commissioned in 1965. NNPC was established 1st April 1977. What value have we delivered to the country? And all these things are important. And except we deal with this, it may end up being like political practice to reshuffle and shuffle. And when the spokesperson was speaking also, I appreciate some of the efforts of this government in repositioning the fortune of Nigeria. But please, it's not about effort. It's about practicalities, what can be seen, the impact on the citizens. And we hope that serious attention will be given to this engagement. And the African continent is quick to say, oh, we are looking up to Nigeria to take the lead. And we have not withdrawn our status position of being the giant of Africa, but in what realm? So there is a serious need to engage wisdom in how the resources of these countries are managed locally and internationally to be properly positioned for national development.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your comments. But let's take another topic. The Disciplinary Committee of the Confederation of African Football, CAF, has awarded 3 points, 3 goals to the senior national team of Nigeria for the abandoned game against Libya on October 15. Return leg, abandoned. Super Eagles defeated Libya 1-0 in New They had to abandon the game against Libya, away game, after they were left unattended to for over 16 hours at the airport upon arrival without food and water. They also survived a plane crash when their flight was inexplicably diverted to another airport, 300 kilometers away from the city of the game. CAS suspended the game and handed it to their disciplinary committee for a decision on the next step on the game. And they have declared a win for Nigeria with 3 goals, a result which effectively seals Nigeria's spot at next year's AFCON. In a related development, Nigeria's Flamingos have crashed out of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup after a 2-0 loss to USA, the United States, in their quarter-final clash in Santiago. Bankole Olowekere's side won all 3 group games, scoring 9 goals and conceding only 1 goal. The West Africans, however, found the Americans too difficult to handle. The Flamingos started the game brightly, but fizzled out afterwards. Kennedy Fuller gave USA the lead from the penalty spot 3 minutes before the break. The Americans put the game beyond the Nigerian girls, with Kimni Ascanio scoring the second in the 73rd minute. By this development, the Americans gained revenge for their defeat to Nigeria at the same stage of the competition 2 years ago in India. Well, we seem to be out, but the Flamingos, I would say, did very well. Professor Aworawo, let's start with you.
Yeah, the Flamingos, they played well. They have 3 group games, and there were hopes that they will be able to beat the USA and move on. When they say they lost, they exited gallantly. You exited. Did well. The one that wins the trophy is the one who will ultimately say did well. Once you crash out of the place at some point, we can just say they tried. We cannot say they did well. They did well. They are back home in the second round, just after the group stage. Well, but they were tenacious. They had skill. So what that means is that the senior team that has aged players now, they are retiring one after the other, or maybe, and the rest of them are leaving. There is a crop, of players that the country can rely on to replace these ones moving forward. That is a good. That is a positive. Then the 3 goals, 3 points for Nigeria. Well, that's a good one. It's true that hosts try to play some antiques here and there to gain some advantage when a visiting team comes. But Libya just did his own to the extreme. The plane could have crashed. The information was that they were not even sure of whether the plane had enough fuel to, make it to the other airport. That plane could easily have crashed. But they didn't bother. And the plane was about descending when they say, okay, divert to the other place. So this would be a good lesson, even if they said replay, that would also have been manageable. But this is others will learn from this moving forward that it's just a game. We have one Nigerian, Gara Gombe, who has been saying, oh, Nigeria should have gone ahead to play. It's a living person that plays football, not a dead person. So the position of CAF is welcome.
Well, Prof, I like your comments. Thank you. But there's also another subject which I think Mr. Ologun can take along with his commentary. A student of the Obada Idiebi High School in Emeko-Afon, local government area of Ogun State, identified as Monday Ariyo, has died after a teacher allegedly beat him with 162 strokes of the cane for breaking a dustbin. An activist, popularly known as Just Adetun, shared the incident on Instagram on Friday. According to the activist, the teacher had reportedly brought a dustbin to Ariyo's class with instructions that the students should not break it. In the video, she narrated that Ariyo had jokingly said to the teacher that the dustbin was bought with the students' money, a response which was said to have infuriated the teacher. At the end of the day, the teacher beat the student died. Mr. Ologun.
And it was
This and other issues.
It was not even that the student broke the dustbin. And this is where emotional intelligence comes in how you react to issues. And from what I read, that he did a frog jump also. And by the time the guy was taken to the hospital, he was dead. And that's a big case. And I understand the school principal also authorized the teacher to mete out that punishment on the young guy. And you see, the name of the young boy is Aworawo. And you can see now that a child expected to bring joy to the family has brought sorrow. And I hope that justice will have its course in this, and that others who manage young ones will be given the appropriate enlightenment to engage them effectively. Even when Peter denied Jesus and did everything, Jesus didn't discard him. He still prayed for him and held him true. So this is a very serious matter. And let's link it with the realities of our time. The mental stability of many now are challenged in the country, and it should be a matter of concern to us as a nation, and like the wise people will say, decapitating is not the solution for headache. I mean, that was too much, 162 canes. But I believe the matter is being investigated by the police, and we hope that justice will be delivered. It's quite a painful one, and I express my condolence to the family of Aworawo. And again, I advise that the government should embark on reorientation of those within the engaging system to know how to handle issues proactively and effectively.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ologun. Thank you also, Professor Aworawo. You've been watching This Is Live, a Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati from our entire team, and I, here in Lagos, is bye for now. And thank you very much for watching.